The world felt hollow and fragile after the accident claimed everyone I loved. Only Mutsumi remained, a light in the darkness, promising she would never leave my side. But I never suspected the terrifying secret hidden behind her family's name. Kyoichiro revealed himself as a master spy, threatening to erase me from existence to protect his sister. I found myself surrounded by her eccentric siblings, each a lethal expert in their own right. To stay by her side, I had to marry into this family of shadows and survive their legacy.
Kyoichiro's jealousy turned into a lethal training regime designed to break me.
Every corner of the Yozakura mansion was a death trap waiting to be triggered. I spent weeks dodging blades, fire, and poison gas just to reach the breakfast table. Even our meals were laced with toxins to build up our internal resistance. I practiced with a pistol for hours, aiming for a remote just to turn on the television. I remembered the time I cut my own hair to protect Mutsumi from bullies years ago. My body was covered in bruises and my fake skin was peeling from the constant strain. But the siblings began to acknowledge my willpower and offered their secret help. I learned to navigate the poison gas by staying low and moving with precision. Finally, the mansion's computer recognized me as a true member of the family. My real training was only beginning as I was tasked with my first field mission. I had to protect Mutsumi at school from a social media-obsessed bomber named Taya. I realized I had become the very bomb meant to kill her. I leaped from the building, prepared to sacrifice myself to save the person I loved. Kyoichiro caught me in mid-air, having disarmed the device before it could detonate. Yet, nightmares of my own weakness continued to haunt my sleep. I accidentally stepped on Goliath, who didn't take kindly to the intrusion. Mutsumi treated my wounds, reminding me that even the guard dog was part of the family. Futaba warned me that it takes years for even talented fighters to make progress. She challenged my determination, asking if I was truly ready for the all-out training. The training was relentless, pushing my body far past its natural limits. I practiced my disguises, even if they occasionally led to embarrassing misunderstandings. My reflexes improved until I could catch a flying baseball without even looking. I watched Mutsumi handle the family's complex paperwork with effortless grace. I even had to help retrieve a missing report from the elusive and naked Kingo. When the weapon expert Shinzo was cornered, I was sent in to provide support. I used my training to disable an armed guard before he could fire. I fired a special electric round to destroy their communications radio. A sniper's bullet found my leg, but I refused to let the mission fail. I threw a simple fork to Shinzo, giving him the improvised weapon he needed. My loyalty was tested by a rogue police officer named Sui who demanded I betray the family. I hid the truth serum in a balloon, proving I could play the dumb civilian perfectly. It turned out to be another elaborate test orchestrated by Kyoichiro. I had to learn to control my sleeping patterns like a dolphin just to survive the school day. I dodged high-speed chalk thrown by Kyoichiro while I was technically asleep. I tried to follow a dating manual to give Mutsumi the normal life she deserved. Our date at the amusement park quickly turned into a high-stakes manhunt. I neutralized a pair of dangerous targets using my electric bullets during a shootout. We ended the night on the Ferris wheel, watching the sunset over a world I was finally ready to protect. The morning light hit the Yozakura mansion as I strapped on my new tactical gear for the very first time. Kyoichiro handed me a classified dossier containing the details of my inaugural mission. My objective was to intercept a high-ranking informant who held data on illegal bioweaponry. Mutsumi squeezed my hand and reminded me that my survival was her only priority. I stepped out into the bustling city streets, feeling the weight of the concealed weapons beneath my jacket. My earpiece crackled with Shinzo's voice as he monitored my surroundings from a rooftop nearby. I spotted the target entering a luxury hotel and followed him into the lobby with practiced stealth. Suddenly, a flash of steel cut through the air, narrowly missing my shoulder. A group of men in white military uniforms stepped from the shadows, blocking my path. They identified themselves as the Hanagiku, the government's elite anti-spy unit. I drew my electric revolver, remembering the grueling training I had endured just weeks ago. The Hinagiku captain lunged forward with incredible speed, his blade glowing with energy. I blocked the strike with my reinforced gauntlet, feeling the raw power behind his attack. He mocked the Yozakura name, calling me a mere amateur playing at being a spy. I triggered a smoke pellet and used the cover to relocate to the ceiling beams. From above, I fired a non-lethal shock round that paralyzed the nearest two soldiers. The captain evaded my shots with a graceful backflip and prepared a massive counterstrike. Xian remotely hacked the hotel's fire suppression system, drenching the entire floor in water. I used the water to conduct a wide-range electric pulse that forced the Hinagiku to retreat. I secured the informant's briefcase and made my way to a secondary extraction point. Back at the mansion, Futaba examined the encrypted drive I had recovered. The files contained a list of victims from a car accident 10 years ago, including my parents. A name appeared repeatedly in the logs, Tanpopo. Kyoichiro explained that Tanpopo was an underground organization specializing in illegal human experimentation. He revealed that my family's death wasn't an accident, but a targeted hit by Tanpopo agents. I remembered the smell of smoke and the screeching tires from that night with terrifying clarity. I swore that I would hunt down every person involved in Tanpopo to get my revenge. Nanao led me to the training grounds for a new lesson on poisons and antidotes. I had to build up an immunity by consuming small doses of various lethal toxins. Days turned into weeks as I balanced reconnaissance missions with brutal physical conditioning. I noticed a suspicious man in a black coat watching our mansion from the perimeter. I moved through the trees silently, using the techniques Goliath had taught me. When I cornered the stranger, he didn't run, he merely laughed at my attempt to capture him. He claimed to be a representative of Tanpopo and said they were waiting for me. Before I could pull the trigger, he dissolved into a swarm of black petals and vanished. I rushed back to the mansion to warn the family about the breach in security. Mutsumi met me at the door, her face pale as she showed me a letter left on the dining table. The letter was an invitation to a formal gala hosted by a front company for Tanpopo. Kyoichiro declared that this was clearly a trap, but it was also our only lead. We began preparing for our most dangerous mission yet, infiltrating the heart of the enemy's territory. As I packed my bags, I noticed my eyes momentarily glowed with a strange, pulsing silver light. A sharp headache struck me, accompanied by a voice whispering in a language I didn't understand. My skin felt like it was burning, and for a second my shadow seemed to move on its own. I realized that the training hadn't just made me stronger, it had started to wake up something dormant in my blood. If I lost control of this power during the mission, I might become a bigger threat to Mutsumi than Tanpopo itself. Just then, all the lights in the mansion cut out simultaneously, leaving us in total darkness. I heard Mutsumi scream from the level below, followed by the sound of breaking glass. I reached the parlor only to find her chair empty and a single giant dandelion sitting on the floor. The scent of a strange gas filled the air, making my vision swim and my knees buckle. Through the haze, I saw a figure standing in the window, holding a captive Mutsumi. As I lost consciousness, the last thing I saw was a message scrawled on the wall in glowing ink, "Welcome to the island." I woke up to the rhythmic clattering of metal against metal as the train car swayed violently. The glowing message on the wall began to fade, leaving me in a suffocating darkness. Suddenly, the roof of the carriage was torn open like paper by a massive, mechanical claw. Kyoichiro appeared through the gap, his silver wires humming with a lethal frequency. He told me that Tanpopo was already initiating the final phase of their experiment on Skeleton Island. I forced myself to stand up, gripping my revolver until my knuckles turned white. A horde of Tanpopo's bioengineered soldiers flooded the carriage from both ends. I fired several rounds, but the enemies moved with a speed that defied human logic. One of the creatures slammed me into the wall, cracking the reinforced steel behind my head. In that moment of agony, I felt the Yozakura blood inside me begin to boil. A surge of electricity erupted from my core, shattering the windows of the entire train. My left eye ignited with a brilliant blue flame, marking the awakening of my blooming state. With newfound speed, I moved through the enemy ranks like a bolt of lightning. The soldiers fell before they could even register my movement. Ahead, the silhouette of Skeleton Island loomed over the horizon, surrounded by a jagged sea. The rest of the Yozakura's siblings descended from the sky in high-tech gliders. Shion hacked the island's defense grid, disabling the turrets just as we crossed the perimeter. We breached the laboratory doors, finding ourselves in a chamber of horrors. The leader of Tanpopo stood at the center, surrounded by containers holding the stolen memories of my family. He mocked our efforts, claiming that human emotion was a defect that needed to be erased. Without a word, Shinzo unleashed a barrage of heavy artillery from his weaponized suitcase. Futaba deflected the incoming counter-missiles with her fans, her movements a blur of grace. I charged directly at the leader, my body vibrating with the sheer pressure of my blooming. He summoned a massive bioorganic wall to block my path, but I didn't slow down. I channeled all my energy into a single devastating shot from Ye. The blast tore through the organic shield and struck the central mainframe. As the facility began to crumble, Kyoichiro secured the memory canisters and gave the signal to evacuate. The leader attempted to activate a self-destruct sequence, but I was already standing behind him. I told him that the Yozakura family doesn't let anyone hurt their own. One final click echoed in the room as I neutralized the threat forever. We sprinted toward the extraction point as the island began to sink into the dark ocean. I felt Mutsumi's hand grab mine, pulling me into the safety of the aircraft. We watched from the air as the remaining structures of Tanpopo vanished beneath the waves. The adrenaline finally wore off, and my blooming eye returned to its normal state. Mutsumi leaned her head on my shoulder, thanking me for finally bringing her family home. Kyoichiro looked away, but I could see a small, rare smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. The mystery of my parents' accident was solved, and their legacy was finally at peace. I realized then that I wasn't just a guest in this house, I was a Yozakura. We landed at the mansion just as the cherry blossoms began to fall like snow. As long as we are together, no shadow in the world will ever be dark enough to hide the truth.